All right, I'm back. That was weird. I had an audio issue. But welcome. I hope everyone's doing good. It's been a long time since I've been here, and I look crazy. It's been a long, long day. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm Joshua Betancourt. Most of you have seen my channel and know that we have conversations about kind of esoteric practices and neurolinguistic programming and self-improvement, right? Spiritual growth, all of those really cool things related to how we live improved lives and improve the lives of those around us. So this is paradigm shifting. I haven't been here in a while, so I'm happy to be back, and I'm glad that you guys are here. Welcome to Paradigm Shifting. So I'm in need of a haircut. That's the first thing that I'll say. Yeah, I'm definitely in need of a haircut, and I've got a little bit of a tan. I just came back from Florida a couple of days ago. I spent a week over there, and it was a good time with the family, and got some beach time, and did all that cool stuff. But I haven't been on in a while, and I wanted to put together a quick little video. I know it's late. I've just been going nonstop. I've had a really long day, so. But I wanted to put this video together because something came to me the other night that I wanted to talk about, and hopefully inspire some people to align to this idea. I haven't necessarily heard it or read about it. It was just something that came to me. So I wanted to talk about this idea of generational divisions and what that means. But yeah, so let's hop into it because I don't want to take up way too much time. Generational division. So I was laying in bed and I was thinking about the state of the world and how we've been conditioned into the lives that we live. And I thought about how long that process has been in place. And you can look at it from a multifaceted perspective, whether it's the divisions that are created through the educational system and the way that we educate ourselves. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a great book called The Tipping Point. It might have been The Tipping Point, it might have been Blink, where kind of he talks about the differences of children who are exposed to high-level coaching at an early age versus children who are exposed to mid-tier coaching in hockey at a very young age, and the impact that it has on their success as hockey players, and the percentage of those players that actually make it to the Professional Hockey League. And it's an unbelievable read if you haven't read it, but it kind of aligns to this idea that I've had related to generational divisioning, which is this, in my opinion, the systemic structure of dividing generations to see the experiences of life from different perspectives. And it's become somewhat ingrained in the society that we live in today in the United States, right? From a business perspective, I've been in IT for a long time, but from a business perspective, there's specific strategies related to how you market to Gen Z versus the millennials versus Gen Y, right? So this idea and these concepts of these periods of time where specific groups of people are born and the impact that they have on society has actually led to this divider, this division. But it's not only just from a business perspective, it also really is from a humanities perspective, in the sense that humans have been inundated with technology for a relatively short period of time with the advancement of the personal computer itself, and everything that's taken place, right, since MS-DOS, right, back in the day, all the way till now. And as I look at that, I really see it both as a tool for accelerated learning and an advancement from a technological standpoint, but there's also aspects related to it that are divisive and they kill communication, like face-to-face communication. Go to any restaurant, you see 90% of the people are on their phones 90% of the time. the way that parents interact with their children, right? The whole landscape of the way that we exist in society has been driven and evolved related to the technology that we have. But it's even bigger than that, right? This idea of generational division is even bigger than that in the sense that, it was 100 years ago, not even 100 years ago, right? Where I think that in the United States, we were more likely to have uninterrupted meals, right, with our elders, with our parents, with our grandparents, with our uncles and aunts, and learn lessons related to life during those interactions that rarely take place anymore, at least as I see it. And for some, that might be by design, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but the reality is that the nature of the way that we've existed over the last 60, 70, 80 years has been a completely different paradigm than what and how we lived prior to that point in time. So I'll take it back to this idea of fire talks, right? And the Native American culture, where the elders would be what we'd call storytellers, and they would tell stories that had been handed down from generation to generation, and those stories were meant to teach important life lessons. And those life lessons were either kind of related to existing in this experience of life that we have, or being able to understand nature and the forces of nature and how they were dealt with, or even understanding kind of the nature of human emotion and the fluctuation of what that looks like and how to manage those changes as a sentient being so that you might better navigate a life and create a better life. So it was, a fire talk where, an entire tribe would gather around a fire and listen to these stories and learn from these stories. That experience is almost absent in our culture today. The way that we do that now is usually by people posting videos either on Instagram or Facebook, such as this, and we kind of share our experiences with a limited group of people, right? Even though it may be more than they would have had back then, but so there's some pros and cons there. But what I think is missing is this emotional, right? This tangible component of this experience of storytelling, right? This experience of being able to share my experience so that you might not have to deal, or you might be better prepared to deal with those situations should they present themselves in your life at a later time. And that's really kind of what, paradigm shifting is about. And that's really kind of what, the advancement of, these YouTube channels is really this idea of content creation to help people find resolutions to any given scenario, any given situation faster. But there's a lot to consume, right? There's so much to consume in that way. And I think it's really important that this idea of, generational division is understood by the elders of our society today, right? The adults of our society today, so that we might understand our responsibility in giving back to those generations and those that come after us. So there's a couple of different ways to look at this, right? So we talked a little bit about how it's played out in kind of the business world and IT and technology's impact on it. I think there's also this idea of understanding that education is influenced by the idea of what a specific group of people want our children to understand, and in that there's certainly generational divisions where they're learning different concepts and different processes related to outcomes. Mathematics is completely different now today than it was when I learned it years ago. The history books, right, are updated regularly. Textbooks are updated regularly, not only with new findings, but with kind of changes in the way that history is told. And if I think it was in Chicago, right, there was a mayor, someone was calling for reform related to the history textbooks that are being shared, in public schools there in Chicago, I think it was. So we see all of these changes, and people are becoming more cognizant of the need to really start to close some of these gaps and to start to include, a wider view and a broader perspective related to truths as we see them, whether it's in the sciences, whether it's in the humanities, whether it's in history. It really is this idea of, for me, getting back to this, generational storytelling, right? This honest and this honest way of communication that includes integrity and truth that can be valuable for, not only our children but people who might run across that message. And I thought that, this concept was really, really interesting to me in that way, because for me, I've always been a person that wants to learn from the experiences of others, as opposed to, having to go through, the heartache of, learning through, my own experience, right? Um, and and I think, the latter is certainly better, right? If I can avoid a pain, or if I can avoid a loss, or if I can avoid, a challenge by the lessons that someone else has experienced and shared with me, I'd much rather do that than have to go through, the pain of doing it and learning it on my own. So that's really what, this generational division idea is about. It's about closing the gaps between, my daughter talking to my mom, right, and learning from my mom, right. There's so much that my mom can teach my daughter, but they don't talk enough, right? They don't have a strong enough relationship. They don't communicate enough. They do on occasion, but right, it's small talk. It isn't this really deep experience of being there in person and being, in the energy, and hearing the tonality, right, and experiencing the depth and the truth related to her experience and how she might bestow that on not only me but, my daughter, and maybe one day her daughter. um, I feel like that's missing in the fabric of who we are. And I am sending out this video because I want people to somehow make an effort to reconnect in that way. And maybe that's by, doing these videos, right? Maybe that's by, um, kind of changing the normal routine of how you interact with your child and showing them a different perspective of this world, right? Going somewhere new, helping them experience an awe-inspiring moment related to understanding, history, or understanding, the geography, and the environment that they live in. It can be anything that fascinates you, anything that brings you closer to this core sentiment of humanness that we are, and sharing that with others. So that was what kind of inspired this message. It was, we don't see that enough today, right? And I wish that there was, a place for us to come together as a group regularly and empower one another with those experiences, with those stories, with those lessons, with that energy, with that compassion, with that love, because we so desperately need it. I see that, teens and young people are so consumed with technology. And, I saw this crazy meme the other day where, it was a man in bed beside his wife, and they were older, but he was, looking at his phone with his back turned to his wife. And then the next image was him holding on to a picture of her, and she was no longer there. She had passed. And I feel like that's what's happening to so many of us, right? Is that we're losing time to things that are of relative importance, and we're not focusing on the things that are of true importance. And I hope that, this video and this message kind of resonates in that way, and it helps us take a step back and reprioritize, the contribution that we're here to make. Because I think each and every one of us are here to tell a story, right? Whether that story is to be shared with our immediate family, or that story is to be shared with the world. I feel like each and every one of us have a contribution to make in that way. And we have to take on the ownership and have the courage and the compassion, right? And know that, That's the role that we were meant to play, and that's the work that we were meant to give, and the service that we were meant to give. So stepping into that and owning that is really, really important. And in doing so, maybe we close this generational divisional gap that we see. Maybe, the words that we use, or the stories that we write, or the stories that we tell, or the vlogs that we record, or the TikToks, I don't know, whatever it is that you do, maybe we can leverage that to bring more cohesiveness and unity to this world around us, and get away from this idea of kind of separation and exclusion, and in doing so, advance all of us for the greater good of all of us. So, yeah, that's what the message was about tonight. It was about kind of the idea of unity, and the way that our stories impact that. So I hope it was beneficial. I miss you guys. I'm glad to be back, kind of back into the swing of things here. So expect to see more content coming out soon. I'll cut my hair next time. I know I'm looking a little crazy, but I'll cut my hair next time for you all. And I want to just say that I love you. I'm glad that that each and every one of you are here, and that you're paying attention, or participating. Don't hesitate to reach out if there's ever a topic that you think would be beneficial for the channel. If you have any ideas related to paradigm shifting, the page, the content, something that you want to contribute, don't hesitate. The opportunities are endless. You just have to speak up. I love you. I hope that you all are doing well, and looking forward to catching up with each and every one of you. You guys take care. All right. Good night.